All right, guys. Good to be back with you again. Looks like I did solve some of the encoding issues here with this latest game, so I'm kind of happy to report that. Did want to take another look at this one. I know that we did this just 2 days ago, but we've had two games in a row here that were quite interesting. I think the big question here is, do you think that the strategy is correct, or do you think that it's wrong? So as you know, 1908 especially is a really, really difficult season to get right because of all of the sacrifices that take place. And as you know, for most of us, it's not that natural to think, oh, I have a runner on first, I need to bunt, or I'm down by a run, or the game's tied, I need to bunt every time I have the runner on a third. So let's go take a look and see what it is that we're looking at here. We'll go over here to that screen view, which I've kept more or less the same. Take a look over here at the box score. Now, this is a little bit unusual. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 successful sacrifice bunts in this game, along with the 8 that we had in the 1908 game before. So you can see that I'm kind of making a little bit of an effort maybe to bunt a little bit more. This game did have its share of offense, 9 runs scored overall. Both pitchers going the distance, so it was a fun game. But the big question is, did we bunt too much or did we bunt just enough? And what do you think about this? So the big question, of course, is the final play of the game. You had Davis over at third base. I mean, you can see it here on the screen, right? So Nichols rolled a 34-4-44, and the little E roll was out of the range, but didn't really matter. It's a bunt back to Walsh, and he had no play at the plate, and so it ends up being a walk-off single for Nichols. Theoretically, at least he threw home and was not in time. Yep, you can see their walk-off hit, game over. That's the way that this one ended. But the big question is, was that the right thing to do, right? There was one man out. Was it right to bunt in that situation, or should we have swung away in that situation? Would you have done it differently, right? If you go read the book, right, by Tom Tango, you go look at modern baseball strategy, you naturally would think in this situation you probably don't want to bunt. You probably have a better chance of scoring if you swing away in theory. But then again, this is 1908, where the calculation might change a little bit, right? Now, if this were real life, it would have been, what, a 34 for a 44. We can go, if this were real life, if we hadn't bunted, we can go look this up, actually. So this is what fielding, well, let's see, it's the center fielder, so it'd be fielding one. Fielding one with a runner on a third base. Let's see what happens. Runner on a third base. The 31 is a flyout. Runner holds, F scores. And so what we have to check on next is to check and see if Davis has an F. He doesn't. So if we had not bunted, if we'd swung away, it would have been a fly ball over to Jones, and Davis would have had to hold. So, I mean, that's the question, right? Which is, so is it right in this situation to bunt, or is it right to swing away? Well, it looks like it's actually right to bunt. I'd argue that with a runner on at third base, you're probably more likely to score the run if you bunt than if you just swing away, but it depends. If the guy's fast, it might actually be better to swing away. Part of the question, though, at least in Skeetersoft, part of the question, though, is that correct? Or if you had a fast guy on a third, wouldn't bunting be better in that situation? It's kind of a complicated thing to do. Now, I'm not going to go deep into this. I'm not going to go digging through the boards. We're already doing that with National Pastime, right? It would take me a lot of time to sort of dig through the boards and ask that question. But I would like to know, what do you guys think? And would you actually sacrifice in that situation? I mean, we had another situation in the top of the ninth inning where Tannehill reached on an error. He was sacrificed by Walsh over to second. And that meant that there were 2 away. And the question is, was that the right thing to do or not? So Walsh rolled a 25 for a 9. And by this time, I think Vickers was a C, which meant that it would have been an out anyway. But that's the big question, right? Which is it right to bunt with Walsh in that situation to get that runner to second, right? Or do you take your chances with him? If you want to look at what Walsh's card looks like, it looks like this. It's not an awful card, especially against a C, because you got 1, 2, 3 eights, along with the 66 and the 11, 4, 5, and 15 as well. So that's 6 out of 36 chances at a hit. Plus, you also have weird stuff like the 23. You have the 21. You got a couple of options here, 22 or 35. You got a bunch of options here for a potential hit. So that's the next question, right? Which is it better to bunt with him, to bunt that guy over to second, or is it better not to do that, right? And there's all sorts of other places where we could look for that. Again, you know, bottom of the 7th inning, right, with Nichols on at first, Powers bunted despite the fact that it was a 4-1 game. Collins then got that single that scored the runner, and then there was an error and then another single Murphy tried to bunt twice, and the second time succeeded and got a base hit. That 11 actually would have been better if he'd swung away. This game might not have gone 10 innings. So that's the question again, right? Are we bunting too much? Are we not bunting enough? Is this actually what would happen in 1908? I mean, what do you think? Now the truth of the matter is that we talk a lot about like realism in this game and what is not realistic. The truth is that realism is really in the eye of the beholder. It's not so much about, is this exactly what would have happened in real life, because your replay is not an exact duplicate of real life. You do your best to sort of set things up so that you have a similar situation in your replay to what you would expect to see in real life. But I mean, it's not going to be exactly the same. It never will. Right? You're not going to have exactly the same thing happen that happened in real life. You're not going to face exactly the same problem. And you need to, I would argue, if you're replaying, you need to get out of that mindset that, oh, exactly the same thing has to happen in real life, in this replay that happened in real life, right? I mean, it's just not a healthy thing to think. So anyway, there you have it. That's kind of what the final I guess what the final question is about this game. Are we bunting too much? Are we not bunting enough? I mean, what do you think? Does it have the right feel to it? Does it feel like 1908, or does it feel like something different? I don't know, man. You let me know. Talk to you later. Bye.